The United States today is in crisis. Unemployment is as great or even greater than it was during the Great Depression in the 1930s. This is no accident or anomaly, but an inherent part of capitalism. Even if the capitalists wanted to employ everyone, due to competition, they have no choice. They must maximize profits. Therefore, they're forced to lay off workers as often as possible. Millions are out of work or unemployed, but not counted as officially unemployed for a variety of reasons. Many of these workers are working part-time, therefore they're not counted. Many of them have lost interest and given up looking for work. That number's 5.5 million. There are 2.3 million Americans in prison. 4.4 are supposedly disabled. 17.5 million are in college or higher education. And 32.5 million are out of work for a variety of reasons, working in the military, being contract workers, and so on. The United States is the leading country in the world in terms of the percent of the population and the total numbers that are incarcerated. 2.3% of the entire population of adults between the ages of 15 and 64 are in prison. The unemployment situation physically looks very much like it did during the Great Depression. Long lines form whenever there's a job available or some type of free service such as health care. The millions of unemployed look very much like the millions in the 1930s. Unemployment is deadly. Studies have shown that the suicide rate doubles or triples in times of unemployment, especially in richer countries. Alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence all rise remarkably high during unemployment. The very high unemployment is not going to go away. The Los Angeles Times in September 2010 say that it's going to take decades to recover, quote unquote, from the unemployment rate that we're currently experiencing. Did you know that the richest 1% of the U.S. population have as much income as the bottom 40%? Another way of putting that is that the richest 2.5 million people have nearly as much income as the 100 million Americans with the lowest incomes. The real cause of unemployment is automation, exporting jobs, decline in manufacturing, overproduction, and ultimately the decline of the empire. Competition and the profit motives drive the capitalist to lay off people and export their jobs. Decline of U.S. manufacturing has contributed greatly to the decline in available, decent paying jobs. Most of the economy's profits now are coming from the finance rather than the manufacturing sector. Meanwhile, productivity has increased fivefold since 1950, indicating or meaning that 1/5 the number of workers are needed now to produce the same industrial output, thus fewer jobs. The bosses always push for more and more productivity. The workers get less and less. How can it be that workers produce everything and the bosses keep the lion's share for themselves? This cartoon points out that for every $100 of sales of products made by the workers, they get 25% and the boss gets 75%. And as it points out here, that just isn't fair, but most workers are cynical and don't think it can be changed. While poverty soars and people die without medical care, the schools rot and the roads collapse, the rich are doing very well, thank you very much. Capitalism is a boom and bust system. It's constantly going through crises, fighting wars over markets and raw materials. It is a system that simply cannot provide a decent standard of living for its members of the society. One of the major factors in this crisis every few years is overproduction. Workers are asked to make products for which there is no market. There's no real planning that goes into what goes on in our society. People make as many products as they possibly can, and suddenly there's not enough buyers, and we go into a crisis. Fat cats, or capitalists, need profits so they can continue to grow their wealth. But this means keeping wages as low as possible, dividing workers from each other through racism, through attacking immigrants, through sexism, through all of the usual tricks that the bosses use to divide the working class. It's ironic, actually, that the capitalists would like to employ everyone, but they simply cannot. Here in this cartoon, it illustrates the coincidence where the shop owner says, well, I would love to hire you, but I have to wait for people to buy my products. And the worker says, it's a coincidence. I would like to buy your products, but I need a job before I can do it. This is the true contradiction of capitalism. The U.S. bosses improve profit rates by exporting jobs, but in so doing, they'd reduce the number of workers who can consume products. Again, this is an objective necessity of the capitalist system. Capital must flow to where it can make the most money. Workers are the victims, and unemployment is the result. The United States is in decline. It used to be the major power in the world, but it cannot hold on indefinitely, and we're now in the downward spiral. Britain lost its empire in the early 20th century, and the workers in England are still poor. The per capita income is significantly less than in the U.S., and the unemployment rate for the last 35 years in England has been 25%. But the rich in England are doing very well, thank you very much. As this graph shows, there are some countries with growth. China, Russia, Brazil, India are all growing very nicely over the last 18 years. England, in fact, has experienced a decline in GDP, or gross national product. The United States has had very poor growth and is following the pathway of England into a deficit. The capitalists can recover, but that usually at the price of keeping the workers unemployed and poverty-stricken. Only a revolutionary movement to overthrow the capitalists and change the system can really solve the problem. It will not solve itself. What we need is a planned economy to eliminate profit, eliminate the cause of unemployment, produce what people need. Actually, we could shorten the work week and eliminate literally millions of worthless, useless activities such as lawyers, insurance companies, advertising, and the thousands of products that are duplicative or unnecessary completely. What you can do is fight for a working class power and communist equality. Get rid of capitalism once and for all and build a new society. Read and distribute Challenge, the PLP newspaper. Join Progressive Labor Party. Make no mistake, the bosses are not going to change the system. They're going to make it work for them. But that means more and more misery for the working class, more wars, more job cuts, more cuts in entitlements. Social Security will be eliminated. The only way to change this dire prediction is to join Progressive Labor Party and fight for communism. Look for PLP activities in your neighborhood.